We have just started understanding what lip microbiome is. How is it different from the facial skin or the oral mucosa?
Welcome to the Learn Skin podcast with me, Dr. Raja.
And me, Dr. Hadar, where we discuss all things skin.
Join us as we delve into the art and science of skin health in today's episode.
Hey, Raja, can you say the thing I told you to tell them?
Of course. We are board-certified dermatologists. This podcast is meant for educational and informational purposes only and is not considered medical advice, nor does it serve as a substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional. All opinions shared do not express the views of Learn Health, Inc. Let's get to the good stuff.
Hey, Raja, how are you today?
What's up, Hadar? Hey, I've just been thinking a lot about lips. Lip health, lip hydration. What's up?
It is really interesting that as dermatologists and basically any provider who takes care of skin, we always say that we care for skin, hair, and nails. But it's true that the oral mucosa is part of what we do, but the lips are always kind of fall somewhere there in the middle, right? They're always like, is it really skin, mucosa? What's happening? How should we handle it? And I think we all feel a little uncomfortable with that anatomical site at times. So today we're going to talk about lips, right?
Absolutely. And in fact, we kind of take it for granted because lips are one of the first things we do notice on each other. And there's so much in there around lip science, lip health, but we're not going to do it all on our own. We have our longest, and I don't know if it's like the longest lasting, because Hadar and you and I were just talking about this, but one of the longest lasting friends on the Learn Skin podcast is Dr. Hemali Gunt, who is the head of clinical and scientific affairs at Burt's Bees, who's going to be talking to us about lip health. Hemali, welcome again to the podcast.
Well, hello, Raj, and hello, Hadar. It's great to be back.
Yes, welcome back. And we will try not to just give lip service and really answer the entire question
there it is.
here.
We started right off with the bang.
Started right off.
Yeah, I worked long and hard on this. All right, it literally rolled off the tip of my lip. Okay, all right, so let's talk about this, Hemali, because, as I said in my introductory remarks, it's really something that we don't think about too much. And sometimes the diagnoses there seem a little different. So how is the skin on our lips actually different than skin on the rest of the body? Is it different at all?
Okay, so a very good foundational question, and that is exactly where we should start with, really. So essentially, we know that the lip area, it's a transition between the facial skin and the oral mucosa. And it really has its unique structure and properties that differ from both from the oral mucosa and the neighboring facial skin. So in order to really understand what's the best way to take care of lips, it's important to understand what these structural differences are. So I like to think like of the three main differences and which are the biggest differences that contribute to the way they function. So first is the upper layer of skin on your lips is much thinner. Lips just have like 3 to 4 layers of epithelial cells compared to the rest of the face, which would have about 15 to 20. And the facial skin is highly keratinized epidermis, but the epithelial cells of lips are parakeratotic, meaning that the corneocyte formation is actually not complete. And because it's not complete and they are immature, they provide this poor barrier function and water holding capacity than the fully formed stratum corneum. So that's one, right? I mean, that is why we always want to take care of our lips. And, that's the first place you will feel dehydrated when you're not having enough water. Your lips will start to feel dry because it doesn't have that good water holding capacity. Then secondly, lips do not contain the melanin cells that we have on our facial skin and our body skin, which is a form of protection also. And also because we don't have that, the blood vessels underneath are really visible, much more visible than the rest of the other skin. And because of that, we get this pretty little pink tint on lips. So that's a plus, but I don't know if I want to put it in the plus, but yeah, it enhances the look of your face.
Right. And that's kind of the cheap person kind of lip gloss, right? You bite your lip. That's how they used to do it in the old days and get a little more flushed like that. But it's true.
What kind of an old days are you talking about, Hadar?
Hey, listen. I'm a theater guy. I refer to Shakespeare. So, but no, I think really you're absolutely right. And I've seen some really nasty skin cancers on the lower lip. So definitely
Right.
that protection is missing there in all aspects. And always is the first thing you look at a baby and want to see if they're dehydrated, as you said. The lips really tell a lot of information right there.
And then the other differentiating factor is that lips do not have any sebaceous glands, sweat glands, or hair follicles. All of this is found on the border of the lips, but not really on the lips. And I like to call them like, slightly like defense glands because they are providing, the sebum or the sweat, which helps in lubrication. And because of this, again, lips are more susceptible to becoming dry and also susceptible to more pathogens, extreme temperature fluctuations, and becoming more, chapped easily and can also cause a variety of viral infections. I mean, cold sore is one of the most common ones. That is why you see it there. So those are the primary differences when it comes to the structural differences in the lip skin versus the rest of the facial skin. And then obviously that also relates to some of the biophysical or biochemical properties that we have in lips. And as we are trying to always understand lips better, obviously because of our flagship product, the Burt's Beeswax Lip Balm, we do quite a bit of research. And in looking at everything we know about skin, like everybody's talking about the acid mantle of the stratum corneum being so important in permeability, barrier formation, its antimicrobial defense. And one would assume that the surface pH of lips is also important. But really, if you go to see, there is zero literature available on it. So that is one of the very first things that we looked at recently is like, how do we know if the lip pH is comparable to the facial pH? And this is a publication that came out a couple months ago in the Skin Research and Technology. We conducted a clinical trial that included surface pH measurements of about 40 female subjects. And we measured the pH on the lower vermilion or the lower lip and the two perioral sites, one right above and right below the vermilion border. And what we saw was that the surface pH of lip was about 5, and the two perioral sites was 5.2. So it's very close to skin, but still not quite there. It falls within the pH of the skin. Then we further went on and did some analysis on trying to understand if race has any influence on it, because it has been typically reported that you see higher skin pH in African American compared to Caucasian. So we had three different groups of folks or subjects within our study. We had African Americans, Caucasians, and Hispanic. And when we did the analysis by race, we did see small differences where the African American subjects' pH was 5.2 and Caucasian and Hispanic was 4.9. So there is not a significant difference, but again, our sample size is relatively smaller. We are still, expanding and studying more. But there definitely needs to be more work to, understand how all these things really impact lip health.
Yeah, Molly, that brings up a question because you said it may not be so different from skin, the pH, I mean, from the skin around the lips, generally skin, but the structure, as you just reviewed, in terms of the very thin layers and its function as a barrier, is different. And I'm wondering, what does that mean? Or do you have a hypothesis? What would that mean when you take that same pH but put it on, 3 to 4 epithelial cell layers compared to more in other areas of the skin? Any thoughts on that?
That is the work that is ongoing. We are trying to really understand
Ooh.
these differences yet, and there is a lot that we are going to start sharing over the next 6 to 9 months, but more to come. Stay tuned, or maybe this question I'll answer in the next podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, Raja, the relationship continues. We can't get rid of Hamali. She keeps on doing amazing research.
This brings up a point that I do want to talk about with lips, because generally when we talk about lips, and I don't want this to be lost in our conversation, a lot of lip related conversation has been around how plump the lips are and the cosmetics of lips. And, you see this all on Instagram, social media, which is obviously important. But there's something here that we're having a conversation about, which I think is a little bit more around what are the parameters of health, right? Like
Hmm.
whether it's the pH or, what is the appearance and the factors that are going to really define lip health. And I
Correct.
feel like, Molly, you guys have really focused in on this aspect. And I just want to make it clear that yes, some of these end up being a cosmetic result, but really you're looking at the health of the lip from a scientific medical perspective in the sense of, how do we improve the health rather than
Mhm.
just, maybe like changing the color or plumping the lip up. You're trying to do that from a perspective of the skin barrier and maybe, protection from, whether it's like the elements or if it's somehow, promoting it to not degrade or dry out, whatnot.
Mhm.
And I got to tell you, Raja, I'm sure you'd agree with me that you're making a great point because as dermatologists, I think we see a lot of times what happens when that goes wrong.
Oh my gosh, totally. I mean, look at all the conditions that have lip issues that you take
Yeah.
for granted till you get cheilitis. Then it's a big issue.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it's a big issue and often hard to treat. Sometimes it can be fairly persistent and it actually affects quality of life quite substantially. I mean, I don't know if you looked at that, Himali, but really, my patients who have severe colitis really. It affects their obviously kind of day to day, how they
Right.
eat, what they can drink, what they can put on their lips, their appearance, and their confidence going out to the world, whatever they do, business, what have you. So it's really, a small little part of our skin, but may have much more implication, like anything that's on our face. The lips are no different in that sense. So, a great point, Raj.
Well, let me jump in with a different question here for you, Hamali, because you talked about, the adjacent skin and how the lips are kind of like this in between. There's been so much conversation around the oral mucosa, like the oral microbiome and the skin microbiome. But what about the lip microbiome?
Ooh, good one. Yeah.
Another area which has not been studied. So, I mean, as you guys were talking about what's available in the derm related literature when it comes to lips, a lot of things are around all the surgeries or, the aesthetic dermatology about, lip plumping and lip fillers, or it is really about corrective surgery when it comes to cleft lip correction. But other than that, like I said, there is this gap there. And because lips form a boundary between skin and the oral cavity, one would have thought that even the lip microbiome would have been studied, but it has not been characterized. So we undertook this investigation. It really is what I'm going to be talking about. Is like it's a small pilot initial assessment, but nonetheless, I believe that the significance remains. We have just started understanding what lip microbiome is. How is it different from the facial skin or the oral mucosa? And this work has been published in the Journal of Integrative Dermatology. We conducted analysis of lip swab samples from about 19 or 20 women who were in the age group of 20 to 55, all of them healthy and having no diseases or medications that would affect the microbiome. The only thing that we ensured is that they abstained from using any kind of moisturizing or lip products for a period of 3 days. And in our analysis of the lip microbiome, we saw that, there were four predominant species. I want to reiterate, like, this is just a pilot initial assessment. So we really haven't gone down to the species level. And the four predominant species, they belong to Firmicutes, Proteobacteria, Actinobacteria, and Bacteroidetes. And these are very similar to what we see on the cheek, but still, there are some distinct differences which we are finding through our initial comparative work.
I mean, I think this is really fascinating stuff because I think it's easy to take it for granted that the lips are, going to be very similar to the skin, but it being an interface, I mean, Hadar, you know this, that, when people get, for example, things that are overgrowth of the yeast forms, especially when it deranges, you can see that like it truly is a boundary between the internal and the external. And it's not just an extension of skin. So I really appreciate, Hamali, that you're doing this work looking at the microbiome. And actually, I wanted to follow up on that and say, are there ways that we can actually use lip care products? And is there evidence that they affect the lip microbiome, or maybe even, whether it's protect it or perhaps even disrupt it? What should people be worried about or at least aware of?
Right. So we are actually showcasing this work at this upcoming Integrative Derm Symposium in Reno towards the end of this month. And perhaps by the time this podcast is out, the meeting has already taken place. But, very much in line with your physician motto, right? Like, first, do no harm. We want to see that our products are not really disruptive to the lip microbiome. We know that our products provide functional benefits, of restoring and maintaining lip health. But the first thing we studied was that we are not causing any change which is going to be detrimental. So we have, and we have started off with studying one of the very first products, which was formulated with a really nice emollient combination and conditioning ingredients: beeswax, cocoa shea butter, castor coconut oil. Has a very potent turmeric anti-inflammatory, so that it's good for winter months, which is coming up. And so, in order to do that, we employed two methods. We first studied it in vitro using a standardized microbiological assay where the influence of the product on the microbial diversity was studied by incubating the product with a co-culture of some organisms that we know are found on the skin and lips. And in that, we saw that there were no significant differences in the diversity of the bacteria. So the bacteria didn't grow or it didn't die. It was stable. So this first initial assessment in vitro checkbox that the product was mild did not cause any microbiome imbalances. And then we took it one step forward into a clinical usage study where we had about 40 female subjects who used the product for 2 days, and they used it thrice daily. They were not using any other lip care products. And then their lips were swabbed before they started using the product and 2 weeks after. And the analysis of the lip swab showed that there was no impact on the Shannon diversity or the Shannon index, indicating that there was no disruption of the microbial diversity again after 2 weeks of using the product. So through this, we have been able to at least show that our products are not disrupting the microbiome. Now we are gonna take it one step further and try to see how can we actually try to influence the microbiome to be restored if there is a disbalance, which would be in severely dry, chapped lips. And that is the work that is currently ongoing.
That's fascinating. I think a lot of times people listen to this and forget. Can you just remind our listeners, why is that diversity count important?
Yeah, because if you have more microorganisms, that means that you're allowing, well, your skin microbiome is one of the components of the barrier. And if you have a wide variety of microorganisms, it is going to be able to protect you from a wide variety of conditions and be able to stabilize your barrier.
Yeah, and the fact you show no difference is great in a way, because generally people look at this and say, oh, the more diversity, the better. And that's usually the kind of thought. But even if you don't have any change from a product who's supposed to be just supportive, I think that's probably the best thing you can ask for in a product that promotes health, right? Just maintains
Correct,
health.
because these were healthy women. So we did not want to mess
Exactly.
around with their healthy, natural state.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because you look at some of these preservatives that are being used in products, and in other studies on the skin, they've shown that, for example, parabens. I know there's been a lot of controversy over whether the parabens actually do anything in terms of hormones or whatnot, but we know that it can actually adjust the lip microbiome in a not so great way. And so, anytime you're working with products, you don't know what the influence of these preservatives are unless the company does the study, which thankfully in this case, Hemali, thanks for leading some of these studies to just really truly take a look and see, hey, did something actually shift or not? I commend that you guys are doing these sort of work.
Thank you very
Yes.
much.
And publishing it. It's one thing to do it and then keep the results kind of internal, but actually contributing to the literature, I think is very important. Many companies would take that investment maybe because it's a regulatory requirement. Maybe they just want to know, but then we never get to see that.
Right.
And it's such an abundance of data that's kind of locked in someone's computer. But here are you guys putting it out there. Not just putting it out there, by the way, as Hemali mentioned, this is the Journal of Integrative Dermatology, which is open access. So all you guys can just go look up the Journal of Integrative Dermatology, and boom, the article is right there, figures and all.
By the way, let me also just say the Journal of Integrative Dermatology is the official journal for the Integrative Dermatology Symposium. So this is all
Yes,
kind of like it's a part of this huge galaxy here that in integrative dermatology.
absolutely. The community is growing. It's unbelievable. Hey, Hemali, so speaking of research and publication, what are the next steps? Where are we going? Where are you going to take this research next?
So very broadly speaking, the future research is going to be directed and is directed to better understand lips. And there are numerous variables that affect lip health and the microbiome. A lot of them unknown, and a lot of it really we are going back into our repository stating what you just said, that it's in somebody's computer. So we have, and I'm just like thinking of the last 10 years of the work that we have done on lips. Just one endpoint, I was looking at lip hydration data from 18 different studies, and I have 1,200 data points. And the amount of analysis that we can do with it and really understand trends and actually quantify health is where a lot of our effort is going right now towards that. So you're going to see a lot of exciting opportunities. It's an opportunity for us, to translate all this emerging science into routines, into different forms and textures, which facilitate compliance, which is obviously important to you guys, and to incorporate overall wellness through ingredients. So there are a lot of different fields that we are tapping into, but holistically, it is all really better understand the lip, and there will be applications arising from that to benefit patients and consumers.
That's fantastic. And have you given any thought about, we mentioned one of the common conditions that we see on the lips have to do with yeast and fungi in general. Have you looked at that type of microbiome?
So currently what we have been studying is the bacterial microbiome. We have not been able to isolate the yeast and fungi yet, but again, it is on the to-do list.
Yeah, and I think Hemali, I'm sure you guys are going to grow into the whole genome sequencing area. I mean, you guys keep pushing the envelope, and no question that's going to be, on the horizon. That's very exciting. Now, when you're thinking about, we talked about lip microbiome and the emerging studies that are coming out. What's new in terms of ingredients, or what are the ingredients that you're really looking at for when it comes to lip protection? Is there anything new that you're looking at there, or is it reworking things that work and putting them into a different vehicle? What has been the approach there?
We have been doing lip balms and lip products and lip treatments for such a long time. So I think we are confident enough that we know that the products that we offer right now, they are targeting most of the so-called cosmetic or drug spaces that we can get into when it comes to lip products. We have this amazing rescue lip which has turmeric, which I mentioned. We have plant ceramides. We have a variety of different conditioning ingredients like shea butter and cocoa butter. We have all mineral SPF 30 lip balm. So we are covering the gamut already. There are two things I think that we are looking at when it comes to new ingredients and new functionality, which is around lip contouring. And
Very interesting.
you will see it come through again in the next year or so.
Well, all in all, Hamali, I'm very excited that you are really focused in on the research. I also appreciate that you're not tight-lipped about it and that you're open to discussing all of these things. And as always, we have such a great time with you on the podcast. I always learn so much. I didn't realize there was so much science in lips, but now I know. And we appreciate you. And of course, as Hadar said, I think there's going to be another part. I mean, who knows anymore? Now it's like one of those sequels that just keep going on, and the next one's coming, and you stop worrying about whether there's going to be a next one. So we'll definitely have you back, and we'll talk more science.
No, thank you, Raja and Hadar. I appreciate you taking the time to, listen to what we have to do, and also, but guiding us in the work that we are doing. So appreciate the partnership hugely.
Thank you, Hemali.
Thank you.
Hey, listeners, we want to share some great news with you. Over the last year, we have been reviewing and redesigning the successful Integrative Skin Health series. Newly named Dermatology Clinical and Integrative Essentials, or DCIE, a team of incredible integrative dermatology experts have been working on a new and improved curriculum focused on common patient questions and concerns. We're excited to launch the new DCIE program on January 1st, 2024. And right now, through November 30th, you can save $200 off the regular price when you sign up during our pre-sale. But that's not all. You also get immediate access to the original program, the Integrative Skin Health Series. So it's like getting 2 programs in one.
You know, what's really great about this program is that it's geared towards PAs, NPs, MDs, and other healthcare professionals who are new to the profession or seasoned veterans because, evidence-based integrative approaches are still emerging for all of us.